He climbed a 10,000-meter tower just to go viral, but almost died instead. When he reached the top, he felt invincible, so he pulled out his phone and started live streaming. Views began pouring in, and comments about his bravery flooded the screen. He smiled, soaking in the attention, until the sky rumbled. But then, a deafening crack of thunder echoed. He climbed a 10,000-meter tower. He reached for his safety hook, but almost died instead. But when he reached the top, and he felt invincible, so he pulled out his phone and started live streaming. Views began. He was wearing a parachute, and comments about his bravery and took a deep breath. But seconds later, soaking in the parachute malfunctioned until the sky rumbled. But then, a deafening crack of thunder echoed. He climbed a 10,000-meter tower. He climbed a 10,000-meter tower just to go viral, but almost died instead. When he reached the top, he felt invincible, so he pulled out his phone and started live streaming. Views began pouring in, and comments about his bravery flooded the screen. He smiled, soaking in the attention, until the sky rumbled. But then, a deafening crack of thunder echoed behind him. Panicked, he reached for his safety hook to climb down, but it slipped, and he fell from the top. His life flashed before his eyes until he remembered. He was wearing a parachute. He pulled the cord and took a deep breath. But seconds later, the parachute malfunctioned, and he couldn't control where he was going. And now, he was flying straight toward a building with a giant iron door. He braced for impact, but right before he hit,
the door opened and he landed at Kaizen Academy, the best governance firm in Nigeria. With a presence in Lagos, Abuja, Kenya, South Africa, and the UK, Kaizen Academy is your trusted partner in business transformation. Rooted in the Japanese principle of Kaizen continuous improvement, we offer world-class governance advisory, strategy formulation, board appraisals, compliance automation, and more. Our mission, to strengthen people, systems, and organizations with excellence at the core. Recognized globally for our quality, ranked among Nigeria's top consulting firms and awarded Best Public Speaking and Customer Service Training Company in 2024, Kaizen Academy blends deep local insights with global expertise. Whether you're a business leader, board member, or HR professional, we equip you to thrive in today's fast-changing world. Partner with us and grow the Kaizen way.
he climbed a 10,000-meter tower just to go viral, but almost died instead. When he reached the top, he felt invincible, so he pulled out his phone and started live streaming. Views began pouring in, and comments about his bravery flooded the screen. He smiled, soaking in the attention, until the sky rumbled. But then, a deafening crack of thunder echoed behind him. Panicked, he reached for his safety hook to climb down, but it slipped, and he fell from the top. His life flashed before his eyes until he remembered. He was wearing a parachute. He pulled the cord and took a deep breath. But seconds later, the parachute malfunctioned, and he couldn't control where he was going. And now, he was flying straight toward a building with a giant iron door. He braced for impact, but right before he hit,
the door opened and he landed at Kaizen Academy, the best governance firm in Nigeria. With a presence in Lagos, Abuja, Kenya, South Africa, and the UK, Kaizen Academy is your trusted partner in business transformation. Rooted in the Japanese principle of Kaizen continuous improvement, we offer world-class governance advisory, strategy formulation, board appraisals, compliance automation, and more. Our mission, to strengthen people, systems, and organizations with excellence at the core. Recognized globally for our quality, ranked among Nigeria's top consulting firms and awarded Best Public Speaking and Customer Service Training Company in 2024, Kaizen Academy blends deep local insights with global expertise. Whether you're a business leader, board member, or HR professional, we equip you to thrive in today's fast-changing world. Partner with us and grow the Kaizen way.
Good afternoon once again. Good afternoon. Can anybody hear me?
I can hear you.
Yeah, good afternoon once again.
And good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon.
And a warm welcome to this and a warm welcome to this special virtual webinar titled Setting Yourself Apart, Unlocking Value as a Company Secretary, In-House Counsel, and a General Counsel. This session will be moderated by Yetunde Giwa. Yetunde Giwa is an experienced governance and legal expert with over 20 years in corporate governance, regulatory compliance, and company secretarial practice. She currently serves as Head of Governance and Sustainability at Honeywell Group Limited and is the Company Secretary to the group's portfolio companies. A chartered company secretary and member of the Executive Management Committee, Yewande provides legal and strategic guidance to boards while serving ESG initiatives and implementing governance frameworks across the groups. She previously served as Company Secretary of Honeywell Flour Mills PLC and led the group's first board evaluations, governance audits, and ESG reporting framework. Yetunde holds an LLM in Commercial and Corporate Law from the University of London and a law degree from Obafemi Awolowo University. She was called to the Nigerian bar with a second-class honors, and she is a member of the Chartered Institute of Directors of Nigeria. I will now be handing over to Yetunde Giwa to take you from here.
Thank you very much, Kaizen Academy, for the opportunity to moderate this session today. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us this afternoon. I hope I'm audible to everybody who's here today. Great. Thank you. Okay, so I'll just go right into it as we begin in the interest of time. So this session aims to just shed some insight, on the roles of us in-house counsel, whatever background we may all be joining from. It's basically seeks to speak or shed more light on how we can elevate our roles beyond traditional boundaries. Gone are the days when the company secretary or the in-house counsel was to be seen and not heard. Now we find that our roles have transcended the past and have become more strategic. We're now looked to provide guidance, strategy direction, legal advice on a whole plethora of issues, beyond what it used to be back in the day. So today we're fortunate to have an outstanding panel of experts bringing a wealth of experience and deep insights across various industries. They'll be sharing their journeys, best practices, and actionable tips to help us sharpen our skills and set ourselves apart in our various careers. Before we begin, we'll set some ground rules just to guide us through the session to make sure that we're as efficient with our time as we can be. So I would please ask all participants to please change their display names to their real names, just in case you need to speak or we need to ask anyone to say anything so we know who we're engaging with. I would also ask everyone to please mute your microphones if you're not speaking. And anyone with any questions, comments for our panelists, please use the raise hand emoji or button down at the bottom of your screens. The session is being streamed on YouTube Live and is also being recorded for reference afterwards. So I'll go straight into the session by introducing our esteemed panelists with us here today. We have first Dr. Solomon Osagie, General Counsel and Company Secretary at Zepler Bank in the UK. Welcome, Dr. Osagie. It's nice to have you with us today. Dr. Osagie is General Counsel and Company Secretary at Zepler Bank and a member of its executive committee. He has held senior roles at Global Switch and TSYS, a global payments company, where he led international legal strategy, M&A, and complex outsourcing deals for major. He's also an author. He holds degrees from Cambridge King's College and Anglia Ruskin University, as well as an MBA and a doctorate. He sits on the Governing Council of Cranfield University and the Board of Trustees of Church Army UK and Ireland. Okay, so just in the on board, Dr. Osagie, it's a pleasure to have you with us here today. Dr. Osagie, are you with us?
I am with Yes.
Great.
Thank you very much.
You.
Thank you very much, Ayeni. That's very good. Thank you.
Great. I will now welcome also Mrs. Abidemi Ademola. It's nice to have you with us here today, Mrs. Ademola. She's a neighbor of mine at AXLA, so we're no strangers to each other. Mrs. Abidemi Ademola is Legal Director and Company Secretary at Guinness Nigeria PLC. Ms. Ademola, I think you're frozen. Are you with us?
Yes, I am.
Okay, great. Okay.
Can you hear me?
Okay. I can hear you. I can hear you now.
Thank
I'm
you.
just looking at the little looked frozen. Okay, so Mr. Ademola is legal director and company secretary at Guinness Nigeria PLC, a seasoned executive business leader, chartered secretary, and corporate governance expert. She brings strategic legal insight and governance excellence to her role at Guinness. Prior to this, she had served as executive director and general counsel for West Africa at Unilever. She holds a Bachelor of Laws from Obafemi Awolowo University, my alma mater. So especially good to see you here today. A Master of Laws from the University of Lagos and an MBA from Walden University. Welcome again, Mrs. Ademola. It's nice to see you.
Thank you very much. It's my pleasure to be here.
We'll move on to Ms. Nana Aston, Company Secretary at 91 South Africa. She's an accomplished legal and governance professional with extensive governance and legal experience. Prior to this role at 91 South Africa, she had held several senior positions, including Group Company Secretary, Head of Compliance and Legal at Sea Harvest Group Limited, and Company Secretary at Old Mutual South Africa. She holds a law degree and in 2016 completed a compliance management qualification at the University of Cape Town. It's nice to have you here, Ms. Aston.
Thank you for the introduction. Thank you.
Thank you. And then we also have Oyetutu Ayeni, Vice President, Assistant General Counsel at JP Morgan Chase in the United States. Oyetutu Ayeni is an accomplished general counsel and corporate legal executive with over a decade of international experience spanning various sectors. She's licensed in the US and Nigeria and has advised senior executives and boards on several areas. Ms. Ayeni currently serves as Vice President and Assistant General Counsel at JP Morgan Chase and is known for her ability to align legal guidance with business objectives, manage regulatory challenges, and drive enterprise-wide legal solutions across global markets. Welcome today, Ms. Ayeni. It's nice to have you here.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
Dr. Dennis Peterson, General Counsel and Company Secretary at Mercedes-Benz South Africa, a visionary legal and business leader with over 18 years of experience, widely recognized for his groundbreaking work in developing a legal and business risk contingency framework tailored for Black-owned SMEs in Africa, a contribution that has earned him international acclaim. He is also an academic reviewer for the US-based Micro Institute, holds a Senate position at South African universities, and his academic achievements include a doctorate in business administration, an MBA, an LLB, and a Bachelor in Communications in Business and Management from Northwest University. Welcome on board, Dr. Peterson. It's nice to have you here today.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
And my Mrs. Cecilia Madueke, Company Secretary at Julius Berger, Nigeria PLC. Mrs. Madueke has several decades of corporate leadership experience and has been Company Secretary at Julius Berger, Nigeria's largest construction company, for almost 15 years. She's a qualified lawyer with an LLB from the University of Buckingham and a BL from the Nigerian Law School. She began her career at Mobil Oil Nigeria PLC and has held senior roles at Royal Exchange PLC. She's an alumna of Lagos Business School, Oxford University's Business Economics program, and Stanford Graduate School of Business. She's deeply involved in Nigeria's capital markets regulatory committees and serves as first vice chair of COLAX at the Nigeria Employers Consultative Association. Welcome on board, Mrs. Madueke. Good afternoon. It's nice to have you here with us.
you so much. Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you for your kind words. I hope you can all hear me.
Yes,
Thank you.
we can hear you loud and clear. So I've introduced all our panelists, and thank you once again to everyone for making out time to join us here today to share your insights and your experiences with all of us. So I'll begin with some general questions just to set the tone of the conversation. I'll begin with Ms. Ademola. Just to find out from you, I mentioned earlier at the beginning of the session, how our roles have evolved and transcended the traditional role of the company secretary, where we were seen and not heard. So I wanted you to share with us specific actions, mindsets that helped you personally to evolve from this traditional role to a more strategic business partner within the organizations in which you've worked.
All right. Thank you. Thank you very much, Yewande, and maybe I should start by thanking Counsel Academy, first of all, for having me, and also for all the good work that you're doing to strengthen governance and also equip corporate counsel, all over the world. Now to your question. I think from my own point of view, I'll start with mindset, because before you go to the actions, you have to have the right mindset, first of all. And so for me, it started with seeing myself as a business enabler rather than, just someone that comes to tell the business, what to do, what the law says, and how they must obey the law. That's fine. But I had to look at myself and ask that what exactly does my organization need, from me, from my role as the general counsel or as an in-house counsel, because honestly, it didn't start with me being general counsel. It started with me being a very young lawyer and working in the corporate environment and wondering what exactly is required of me. So the mindset, first of all, is to say, I'm here to enable my business. I'm not here to be the clog in the wheel. I don't want them to come to me only as someone who fights fires, and only when they have a problem. I want us to co-create. I want us to work together as a team. So the first mindset was to say, and to ask myself, how can I also develop, business acumen in the process, so that I'm not just seen as a lawyer, but I'm seen as a business manager as well. So that was the first mindset that I had to embrace. The other one had to do with business partnering, very closely related, but slightly different in the sense that I had to partner with my organization, to succeed and for them to achieve their corporate objectives. So it's not to start to query the business objective, but to say, how can we, achieve these business objectives within the confines of laws and regulations and policies in such a way that the organization is a compliant organization, not like just as a tick box exercise, but rather has, this is our culture, this is our way of doing things. And then another one I had to do to take on was ownership mindset, to say, if this was my business, what would I do? Would I just say, no, the law, this is what the law says? Would I not try to find a way forward? You know how it's saying that everything rises and falls on leadership, and leaders always forge a way forward. So those were the mindsets that I had to embrace, earlier on in my career, with talking to mentors, reading up all sorts of articles and books to help support in my career journey. In terms of actions, what I then did was to take on the task of understanding my business end to end. So I started working in Lever Brothers then, and it was the company that metamorphosized into Unilever at some point. So I had to understand, what exactly does this company, what does it do, and what are they trying to achieve? I realized that it's a consumer-centric organization, a marketing organization. And so what does marketing mean? What does it mean to build brands? So it was a whole sort of education for me. And, he was partly reading up the stuff, but also engaging with my business colleagues as well to understand exactly what they do. And I remember that one of the things I had to do with my sales colleague, the sales organization, was to actually accompany them on the sales journey, because it's so easy for us to sit in our offices and advise our commercial colleagues when we don't understand the journey they go through on a daily basis. So I remember myself earlier on in my career sitting down with my sales rep, with one of the sales reps, and doing a sales journey. What do you do in a day to achieve your sales targets, And that really opened my eyes. Obviously, I visited factories to understand supply chain end to end, from source to make to deliver, and things like that. So end to end understanding of the business, stakeholder management is another action, managing my stakeholders, understanding who my critical stakeholders are, and then learning to effectively engage with them. And obviously, I talked about business partnering, but I want to talk about how we set up the structure, because that was a critical action also that we had to do. And this was by the time I then became general counsel. We had to sort of structure our lawyers to be business facing. So you partner, for instance, the commercial organization, partner the supply chain organization, partner marketing, and things like that, so that the lawyers feel, the lawyers first of all feel a sense of I'm part of the business, and then the business feel that I have a lawyer that is just beside me, working with me. So those were the mindsets and the actions, the top ones. Obviously, there are many others that I had to do, but let me just stop it here so that you can go on to the next question.
Thank you. Thank you so much. You shed a lot of light. You shed a lot of tips for us. And closely linked to that, I'll throw this question to Dr. Osagie. So Dr. Osagie, Mr. Ademola has mentioned a number of things that she has done over the years, to integrate her into the business and make sure that she's not seen as a clog in the wheel, as she put it. But then it's one thing for you to do all this, and then it's another thing for the business to receive these things that you're doing and give you the support and recognize the strategic nature of your role. So what I wanted to ask you, Dr. Osagie, is how can we make sure that we are not viewed just as a mere support function, that all these things Mrs. Ademola has said she did are well received by management and encouraged, and then that recognition, of the importance of our role is given after all the efforts that we make?
Well, thank you very much, and good afternoon to all of you. I thank Abidemi for the comments that she made. I think obviously very insightful. Let me challenge a little bit about the distinction between a support function and being strategic. I think you can be both. So for example, in the United Kingdom, there is the age-old challenge about how in-house lawyers have been viewed, and we've had to fight for many years to get recognized for what we do. But then there's been this debate about whether or not in-house lawyers should have some of the professional privilege that external lawyers have. And I guess central to this argument is, as an in-house lawyer, as a general counsel, as an advisor to the board, you have to be independent. So you can't review a decision that you have been part of. So we've had to fight to present a position that our advice that we bring is independent of the business, and at the same time being strategic to the business. So the integration of the in-house function into the business, one has to be very careful about how one pushes that argument, because it can come back to haunt us. So there is the need to strike that balance to say that we are a function that advises the business rather than being at that too much at the center of the decisions that are made. And there are ways of doing that, and I accept it's quite nuanced, isn't it? The ways of doing it, because there are some functions that are strategic but at the same time, that they're not too central to how business is run. And I think Abidemi made the point about understanding your business. Every in-house lawyer has to understand their business, understand the proposition of the business, understand it well enough to be able to contribute to the discussions at the executive table. And that's an ask in itself, isn't it? Because, for example, I don't expect the salespeople and my HR colleagues to be lawyers. So I'll fight for them actually not to be regarded as lawyers. I think many salespeople think that they are lawyers, by the way. But at the same time, I don't want to be regarded as the expert in sales or the expert in human resources or anything else. So again, there are boundary and lines that we need to draw around that. But there's some critical roles in the business that I think that traditionally, certainly in the United Kingdom and in the United States, much of Europe actually, where lawyers have moved into. So up till 2018, for example, data protection, privacy, everybody was frightened of those roles because of the very technical in nature. But lawyers, because of the skills that we have, been able to be critically minded, to be able to evaluate very quickly, and to be able to read things in a very quick, fast, easy manner. We've embraced those roles in the business. So the roles like data protection, privacy, risk, compliance, that when you take those roles as an in-house lawyer, then you begin to be more strategic in how you support the business. I have responsibility here for procurement as well. So those roles in the business can help you to see strategically how the business works and pull everything together to give advice. But I will still argue that lawyers have to be very careful that they don't cross the lines. Because we've got to remain independent so that the advice that we bring remains privileged and is respected for the independence that we bring to the role. Thank you.
Very well said. Thank you very much, Dr. Osagie. Very well said. So my next question goes to Dr. Peterson, please. Dr. Peterson, in your view, what distinguishes a good general counsel or company secretary from an exceptional one in the eyes of the board and executive management? What would they be looking out for in making that assessment?
Thank you. Well, I do believe that the difference between an exceptional general counsel and for the board is to have a complete overview of the universe in which you operate in. I think that there's 4 principles I live by, which is vital for the purposes of adding value to the board, right? The first is to understand that people is a key force within the organization, that you are stronger together. So empower people around you, making sure that they are empowered, be agile, co-create, drive innovation, drive change. That is vitally important to be seen. It should not only be done, it should be seen to be done as well. Secondly, it is vital that you are business orientated. Now, I appreciate Dr. Osagie's point, and he makes a very, very valid point that one needs to ensure that there's a balance, right, in the way that you are business orientated. But at the end of the day, your responsibility is to be, one, manage risk and making sure that there's a solid foundation for governance in that organization. It is not only bringing the advice, because then what is the relevance of internal counsels? You know, I always joke the difference between an internal counsel and an external counsel is that we are in the middle of the fight and we can't run away, right? Where external counsel can run away. Our role, we are specifically there because we need to be business orientated and understand the business, and we can give better advice with respect than external attorneys can give to our businesses. Because it's like asking, you know, like asking ChatGPT a legal question. You ask the legal question, you get the legal answer. But it's up to us to take the legal answer, translate that into the business, and bring the necessary business on a journey to get them to a place to accept the advice and move on the advice, right? So external counsels, they can give us advice, but we are there, and that should make us as attorneys or as general counsels needs to empower us to add value, because we can translate that into an environment and apply that into our organizations, because we need to stay relevant, and this is very important. If us as general counsels do not remain relevant, we become replaceable. And how easy is it for us to be replaced is just by going to an external law firm. And our relevance is our business orientation when giving advice. That's the key. If that element is missing, we are not relevant, and external advice can be rather replace us. Thirdly, I think a very important thing is transformation, diversity, and technology. We see that a lot, that as attorneys, we struggle to implement transformation and digitalization. We see it as a barrier. We see it as a threat for our professions and our departments. Sometimes one of my colleagues in Microsoft made a very, very valid point the other day that was profound. He said that AI will not replace people that use AI. AI will replace people that does not want to use AI. And it's something profound, because it made me realize that it is an extraordinary tool to be used in our organizations and can add a lot of value. And as attorneys and as general counsels, in order to elevate the role, in order to be seen to be adding value, in order to drive sustainable change in organizations, we need to understand that transformation, not only diversity in its classicus and its lex classicus sense, but also through digitalization and the use of other products, that really merges and drives sustainability of the profile within our organizations. And I think the last and most important one, I think in the current economic environments, is definitely cost efficiencies. That is a huge driver by our boards. If I look at the KPIs of board members and of the executive, where we sit, we all drive performance, profitability. And a lot of people look at the legal department and say that you're a cost center, right? Money is going out. I need to make more money and you spending more, right? And I have this firm belief to say that I'm not a cost center, I'm a center of excellence. And I provide my value that I add to the business should by far outweigh the small cost that's paid for my department. And I always fear if any business or any executive or the chairman of the board will say to me, you are just a cost center, because it means that the value that I'm adding is not exceeding the cost of my business unit. And it's vital that you are able to show to the board, to the ExCom, or to whoever your business partners are, that I add far more value to your organization than the small cost that you are paying. Because by managing effectively the risk, by managing effectively proper, well-constructed, business-orientated, legally sound, integrity-driven solutions, we are actually saving a lot of costs and money on the other side. So it is important that you drive this message consistently with your board in order for them to not lose sight of the value that you are bringing.
Thank you, Dr. Peterson. Thank you, Dr. Peterson, for that. I like how you say that we need to keep demonstrating this, because I know that a lot of people they have this mindset that, well, my work will speak for itself. I think the onus is on us to blow our own trumpet, so to speak, and continuously just make sure that the work we're doing is in full view of everybody, and we're articulating it clearly so that everyone can see the value that we're bringing to the table. Thank you very much. I'll pick up on something that you said for Mrs. Madueke's question. You mentioned artificial intelligence and how I know a lot of us were shying away from this, or we're not fully embracing it as we should, but it's the future and it's here. It's here to stay. So the earlier we adapt to that and embrace it, the better. So Mrs. Madueke, let me ask about digital transformation and the impacts of digital transformation on our roles, and maybe you specifically in your role.
Thank you very much, Yetunde. Yetunde. Oh, Yewande. I'm so sorry.
Yewande. She was calling me both Yewande.
Thank you so
Please
much.
go ahead.
Question. Whoa. To be quite candid, I'm finding out about AI myself. So, I'm not a dinosaur, but we're trying to. But AI is evolving. I remember AI started, maybe decades ago with the use of what do you call it? When you had the tools of computers. You had computers, you could use it, then you had the tools of internet. What we're doing today is also AI enabled because we're having meetings in a virtual space. So there's a lot that AI would bring to our activities as general counsel and governance professionals. It's innovative, it's innovation. And I think every governance practitioner should not shy away, every legal person should not shy away from using AI. We also used to build capacity. It's something that, right now we're doing online training, so you can join any university that is online to increase your capacity and acquire further knowledge. So, but what is digital transformation? Let's even ask that question. What is that? I think, when we look at that, we will see it as more of the use of technologies, the use of digital tools, right, in our business. How do we do that? How do we use it to create value in secretarial work, in governance work, and how do we use it to create value for the general counsel? And I think that's what we should be looking at here. The most important impact, so what I'm saying is the most important impact of transformation using the digital tools is that we need to create value in our work, create value that the organizations will see, and then hopefully with that, we can also use to translate into how we can help project the growth of the organization. So for secretarial, we all know the most important impact we have is with respect to the register of members. Now that all shares have not been dematerialized, so everybody has to understand how to you can trade remotely. Your shares are no longer things that you hold. You don't have paper. It creates a paperless environment. You don't have paper as certificates. So that's the most. That actually was a very defining moment with the use of digitalization in the secretarial work when we had to move. And it took a lot of people. It took a huge effort to move people from the concept of paper to the concept of a paperless society. But we're beginning to see the impact. It enables you to have faster information, so that when you just click on the keyboards, you can drop the register of members. Shareholders can see their information, and it makes for it has its downsides, which I'll come back to. It makes for a more efficient way of managing register of members and shareholders' concerns. We also use AI. What we know, how did it impact? We are doing meetings virtually. Everything that we're doing now is, we didn't need to come together to do this, which I've been so it's more cost effective. It's it also enables us to have better records of how of what we're doing. A lot of the information that we have, is now in the clouds. Your minutes, if you're using what do you call it, things like diligent boards or all those things that we're using for secretariat and for administration of meetings, you keep minutes in the cloud. People can access better. You don't, it saves a lot of costs. It enables us to also address stakeholder management because shareholders can now, they're not too far from us. They can easily now access their information, and it is also protective. The earlier you can see things, the more you can avert a number of issues that has to do with theft of certificates, to do with theft of shares and things like that. How does it impact in the role of the General Counsel? It's very simple. Access to information. The role of the General Counsel is more to do with research, documentation, access to information. We can do more research. It's, somebody just mentioned chat GPT. You can tell chat GPT to do a number of things for you, and that will come up immediately. It enables us to be more cost effective. I've already mentioned that we are more cost effective, we are more efficient, we are more effective, we are more accurate. We optimize all the things that we're using. We can also draw up analysis from the data that we can easily obtain from the use of AI, which enables us to also address strategy. We now use it to look at our structures. Are they more effective? The information we get, can we use it to are we more compliant with laws? So it enables us to achieve better outcomes from, in our processes, in the work that we do. However, I will come back to one thing. There are dangers. So one of the impact, it's good, it gives us a lot of things, but the immediate impact that we have not quite addressed is the impact that it will have with respect to data management, the impact it would have with respect to theft, cybersecurity, the impact it would have with respect to, how do I put it, to use of information. I was telling somebody the other day, we had a function, and we're using telephone numbers to do the invites, and she was just going to randomly ask someone to send out the invites with the telephone numbers, and I told her that you can't do that because everybody's telephone number is like a digital footprint, right? It has information. You cannot just hand it over to a third party without the thought that this information can get into the wrong hands and it can be used in a malicious manner. We have to be more self-aware. One of the impacts is that we have to be more self-aware. We have to know that whatever we're doing with the information that we have, whatever we're doing with the tools that we have, somebody else is no longer in our control. Somebody else has the control. We have the cloud. Somebody else has the control. So the cybersecurity aspect of it is very real. We have to be more conscious about that. We have to be more conscious about the rights of the owners of the information to seek consent, to seek permissions and things like that. Yes, it would save cost, and then I think there was a question that was raised that digital transformation would take away the jobs of those that don't embrace it. Somebody said that, and I thought that was a very profound statement for me, because
Dr. Peterson, yes,
very profound, because my own position quite aligns with him. It would not erase the need for a governance practitioner. It will not erase the need for a legal practitioner, because we still need to use the mind. But if you don't know how to use it, it would erase you from the process. Those are my final words. Thank you.
Thank you. That's food for thoughts for us legal practitioners. Thank you very much, Mrs. Madueke. So I'll direct my next question to Ms. Ayeni. So we've spoken a bit about, quite a bit about AI, but what other trends, emerging trends, do we need to be on top of as lawyers? Not just to remain relevant, but to demonstrate that relevance and show how we are adding value to the organization.
Okay, hi everybody. So recently there has been a new trend about ESG, sustainability governance. So we have to think about that, ethical supply chains, climate change. This is helping businesses now, and there are so many regulatory positions on that. So that's one thing that we need to start focusing on. And then there is data privacy and cybersecurity. So even with these AI tools, we need to think about, we're putting all of this information out there. There's not a plethora of regulations. So we need to start thinking, proactively thinking to ourselves, okay, this information we're putting out here, what is this information going to look like if the cybersecurity criminals, if they get a hold of it? So we need to introspect before you put anything out there. Am I supposed to really do this? Or take off like important information, put in general information to get what you want. So that's one thing that we also need to think about, a trend. Another trend is, I feel like general counsels, we should have cross-functional skill sets. So we need to blend our legal acumen with business literacy. What are they doing? Sometimes we're like the clog in the wheel, as I think Mrs. Abidemi said earlier. We don't want to be the clog in the wheel. We don't want to say no, no, no. I feel like we should adopt the mindset of yes, but if, like, let's think about what can you guys do to adequately follow the laws, but yes, you can do this. I think you can do this. We need to learn about our businesses. So those are some of the trends that I see that we have to, it's mostly AI, honestly, but a lot of people have spoken about AI. AI is like the most important trend right now, but those are some other things we can think about.
Thank you, Ms. Ayeni. Very well said. I like how you put that. Thank you so much. So, Ms. Aston, the next question is for you, please. Can you tell us, in your experience, a defining or pivotal moment in your career that helped you unlock your full potential?
Thank you, Yewande. I think the organizer, before I get into my question, I think the organizers have selected, a very powerful topic with significant relevance in today's evolving corporate landscape. So thank you for that. A pivotal moment in my career was about 9 years ago when I became a group company secretary and head of legal and compliance for a company that was preparing to go public and be listed on the JSE. This is a significant transaction and extremely governance or compliance heavy, a highly regulated transaction. The company was moving from being strictly profit focused to now having to set up governance structures. I had to look at the composition of the board, delegate authority to committees, set up compulsory committees, review MOI, draft board charters against the King Code, Companies Act, listings requirements, and so on. Not to mention, ongoing shareholder engagements while maneuvering a very kind of challenging male-dominated governance-resistant environment where naturally governance can be seen as unnecessary red tape and a nuisance at times. It is during this time that I decided on what type of company secretary I wanted to be, what type of legal advisor or compliance person I wanted to be. And it's one that is a trusted advisor in the most senior part of the organization, as opposed to a silent scribe or quiet minute taker. After that, I joined one of SA's largest financial services companies and enjoyed a very structured environment that embraced governance as a key enabler of business. This allowed me to exhale for a change and shift my focus from surviving to enhancing technical excellence, to being a strategic partner who heads the governance streams of every significant project within the organization. So I think a fair balance of technical excellence and understanding of the business coupled with relationship building, are the skills that are a differentiator between a trusted advisor and kind of that very quiet person who doesn't really add much value in their role. Dr. Peterson raised the importance of people, and I mean, I couldn't agree with that more, because that's at the heart of relationship building, and we need to prioritize building solid, healthy, strategic relationships in order to continuously add value in our roles.
Thanks, Ms. Aston. And speaking of adding value, so how can we, as in-house counsel, how can we stay on top of trends? We've talked a bit about AI, we've talked about the ESG and sustainability areas of focus that are very relevant right now. So how do we stay updated with these emerging trends so we can continue to add value in our roles?
Yeah, so me, for instance, I read. It seems like a no-brainer, but you'll be shocked how much we destroy our reputation by being lazy to engage relevant material that we are required to advise a business on. So internally, for company secretaries, I say, read your MOI, your board charters, your governance framework, your key policies, and read that with understanding. Externally, read legislative amendments, listings requirements, your King 4, your governance principles, and be at the top of the legislations that apply to your organization. And AI is obviously very helpful, but I do warn against blindly trusting what AI tells you. Always check your legislative provisions. Pursue continuous learning to enhance your governance skills. Once you have a strong grasp of your internal governance framework against the applicable legislation, then it's important to build an intelligence ecosystem by sort of curating trusted information sources, such as subscribing to alerts from leading law firms. Law firms are continuously, emailing updates. They're doing the research on key things, and most legal advisors and company secretaries that work for corporate companies benefit from that if they read. Subscribe to regulatory bodies and see what updates your regulated entities, have to keep up with. There's things like think tank, there's industry-specific updates, that you can keep using. Use tools that monitor pending legislation, enforcement trends, international developments. Use AI-driven legal technology. This will help us leverage platforms with real-time legal updates that are powered by machine learning. And one of the other things that I'll say is important to stay updated is build trust-based relationships across the business and speak the language of strategy. So when you're providing your advice, frame your legal advice in terms of impact, reputation, risk, operational agility, and make sure that, what comes from you is current, is relevant, and is easy to understand. Pursue continuous learning, like I said. Attend CPD accredited webinars, masterclasses, executive education focused governance seminars, ESG, digital law. There's so much. We're so lucky to be living, in this digital age where information is so readily available to us, and it's a matter of just actually engaging with it. Participate in cross-border forums, global legal roundtables to gain multi-jurisdictional sort of insight of things that are happening, outside your jurisdiction. If you're in Nigeria, take up an interest in what's going on in the legislative landscape in Namibia. There's always something going on. South Africa, SA there's a lot of sort of compliance activity in the SA environment following South Africa being grey listed. So really, I'd say stay active in legal governance and compliance industry. Pursue learning relentlessly. I encourage anyone to remain curious, to continue to learn, and kind of maintain commercial relevance in your daily work.
Thank you, Ms. Aston. And I'll build on that last comment of yours for my next question to Mrs. Ademola. So how do we as lawyers make sure that, we're not viewed just in our little legal box? You know, my mentors, what I like about her is that she's a lawyer, but she's one of the first people that is consulted in the organization because she's a business person, if you know what I mean. So what skills, apart from these legal skills and legal expertise, what other skills should lawyers, in-house counsel and company secretaries invest in to make sure that they're well-rounded? Muted, but I can't hear you. Okay, the Kaizen team, please, can you try and get in touch with Mrs. Ademola? She's unmuted.
I think she's frozen, so she's probably got connection issues.
Yes.
Can you hear me now?
So please try and get in touch with her. Oh yes, you're back on. You're back on.
Can you hear me? Hello, can you hear me now?
Yes. Yes, I can hear you.
Can you hear me?
Can you hear me?
Okay, great. All right. I heard you the whole time. Yes, I heard you the whole time. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, please go ahead. Please go ahead.
Hello? Okay, great. I was saying that I heard you the whole time, so it's fine. So I think for me, I'm going to start with the people bit because the work we do has to do with us engaging with people from the board to senior management and our professional colleagues and all of that. So for me, I think the biggest skill that we have to continue to build on is the collaboration, the skill that enables us to collaborate effectively with people in our organization. So, and you were saying, what do we do to make sure that people are not looking at us as just the lawyer? I think one of the things in that collaboration skill is to speak the language of the business, all right? To where the business at. I did take note of the caution that I think it was Dr. Osagie that talked about we have to be careful that, we keep the boundaries. Absolutely, But in all of that as well, people are not going to listen to you if you do not speak their language, all right? It's also as basic as even, the dressing of the organization. So I had a colleague, and this is just, by the wayside, and he was telling me his story that when he first joined the organization that I now work for, Guinness, Nigeria, that he used to wear his suit, to work, and tie. He will put on his tie like somebody that was going to court, like the lawyer that was going to court. And everybody just used to look at him so strangely. And that he found out I wasn't getting through to the people at all. So he had to leave his suit and jacket and ties for the days that he had to go to court. I know that on days that I had to engage with the business, he will wear the, Guinness t-shirt. He will wear his jeans sometimes and just dress like the people that, he's working with. So it's as little as that, as basic as that, in terms of collaboration. And therefore, people are more open to you. And when you're giving your advice, they tend to take it because they feel that, you're wearing the business hat. The other bit is emotional intelligence, being able to read the room and to understand when it is that you're going to wear your legal hat and when you're going to wear the business hat. So there are times that, the boundary has to be set. You have to say, no, we're not going to do it this way because of this. However, to achieve your same objective, we can do absolutely this 1, 2, 3 things. So what I tell my team members is to say, don't ever say no without a yes of what they can do. Because when you just say no alone, you've closed the door, to future engagements and all of that. However, when they know that you will find solution creativity, innovation. Those are all the skills as legal people that we have to continue to evolve in, you know. And this is not going against boundaries, but looking at what it is that we can creatively and innovatively do within the confines of the regulations and the laws and all of that. The other skill I will talk about is also strategic thinking, you know, big picture thinking, you know, not just looking at one side or your siloed area, you know, of the business, or just looking at approaching it from the legal point of view alone, but looking at it also from, you know, multiple facets of the organization. I think we have a pivotal, especially some of us in-house counsel um, that are also board secretaries or company secretaries or corporate secretaries, governance professionals, is that a lot of the strategic discussions that happen in the board, we are privy to them. So we have the big picture that we can really leverage in giving our advice to the organization and you know, providing our in our roles as in-house counsel as well. So that's one skill that I know that we have to also have. And then commercial business acumen, I think, you know, there have been a lot of allusions to that in our conversations. You know, go and study. I cannot imagine, you know, people tell me that, oh, as lawyers, we're not really numbers and figures inclined. I say, you can learn it. So go and learn it. Know how to read your financial statements. Understand the top and bottom line. Know where your business is going. Some people can't read it. Some lawyers can't. They don't understand it. So when people are now saying you're a cost center, they know why they're saying it. It's because they know that you are not reading the figures. But if you can talk business and say, yes, this is where we are at, and you can demonstrate your excellence and the value you bring to the table, people begin to view you very differently as well. And then there's also the leadership. And I want to talk about leadership because as we progress in our careers, we have to be able to you know, lead the organization, lead our teams, lead ourselves, starting with leading ourselves as well. And also being able to project what we do and show the value that we bring to the organization. All of that I will put under leadership skills that we have to show and be, you know, and then being able to manage your budgets as well is very, very important. Because when you're trying to show the value you bring to the organization, you have to show how, you know, you've spent your budgets, where they've gone into, and the value that they've created in the organization. So that people takes away that mindset of, oh, you're just spending money, you're not making anything. Because you have savings that you can demonstrate, you know, and things like that. And we've talked about, I think there have been conversations around ESG, data privacy, and cybersecurity. I think that would continue to grow because digitalization, technology, all of those things, they've come to stay and it's the future. So how do you help first of all, your team to do more with less, you know, because of, you know, technology, because of digitization and things like that. One of the values, and I want to use this in the area because one of the areas I managed in my organization is, you know, archiving, documentation, and everything. And data is like the new currency, you know, how you help the organization access data like this at the speed of light is something you can also show as an in-house counsel. How you help to make sure that when regulators come to challenge you about, oh, you haven't done this, you haven't paid this, the information is at the click of a button. So how you help the organization, you also build a culture of people knowing that there are critical documents that have to be kept, you know, helping them with retention policies, things like that, when they can discard. And, you know, the value that my team has created has even gone beyond all of that into even ESG benefits as well. Because when the retention periods are have expired, you can also guide the organization on how they recycle and things like that. And those were the things that my people have put in as the value that they've added to the organization. So I think the skills are multifaceted. I just feel that as in-house counsel, we have to continue to emerge and evolve. We have to understand what's going on, the trends in our environment, in our industry, and be abreast and ahead of those trends. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ademola. Very well said. Thank you. And I'll build on that again for my next question to Dr. Osagie. So how can I stand out, Dr. Osagie, to put it in simple terms? How can I stand out? How can I show my organization that I'm a high flyer and I'm not the regular, so to speak?
Well, thank you.
What are those things that would set me apart?
Well, yeah, Wendy, you might actually not want to stand out. You might want to blend with the rest of the organization, but that's just a provocative statement. I think one of the biggest challenges for us as lawyers is everyone has talked about how do you add value and show what you're bringing to the table, and balance against what I think again has been a common comment here this afternoon about not being a cog in the wheel, and helping to enable business to function. I think if you listen to a lot of the comments that have been shared this afternoon, we're generally agreed about what an in-house function should look like and how it should operate within industry. So the last one of the last conferences I was at, and I was speaking at the conference in one of the sessions, and I challenged the organizers there that the conversations that we keep having every year about the value of the in-house lawyers and what we bring to the table, we keep talking, it's a very insular kind of commentary to the same community. We all know what we're bringing. So I challenged them and I said to them, next time we have these conferences, bring in other stakeholders in industry, chief executives and chief operating officers, and many of our other senior colleagues, so that they can hear some of the stuff, hear some of the challenges that we have, and some of the things that we do and do very quietly. So the conversation should be had with people who are outside of this community. That to me is a very useful exercise to have. There's a misconception about what lawyers do and the value that we bring. Because the bottom line is not just the savings that you make in terms of what you spend and what you don't spend, but it's also the preventative work that lawyers have and what they do. So if you save your organization from a regulatory intervention or a fine, how can you? That's a huge positive that sometimes can't be captured in pound sterling, in naira, in pound sterling and naira. So some of those kinds of things are, in my mind, useful. But I also land very squarely on the additional things that you do as an in-house counsel, which is not what. So something that's different from how people traditionally see the lawyer, and going over and beyond into those areas, I think are particularly useful. So here at this bank, I have responsibility for EDI and well-being. So when I do speak to the organization, a lot of what I try to do is to talk not in lawyerly language, but show that there are some other areas that we can demonstrate the things that we bring in. And on that point, I think we have a responsibility as senior lawyers to think about not just well-being, but to think about the profession generally and those people who are coming behind us. So I encourage people to get involved in industry related activities. And I don't just mean mentoring, because mentoring is important, but even beyond that, to shape the conversation about what the profession should look like, and get involved in those things, because often we're very siloed in the way we think as lawyers. So going outside and starting to shape the conversations about what the profession should look like and being involved in those discussions, I think is important. I think guidance for those who are coming behind us and helping them to have these sort of opportunities that we didn't. I mean, when I started in practice, there weren't many. I obviously practice here in the UK. There weren't many people who looked and talked like me, and I have tried very hard to bring a lot of support into that. I'm a big advocate for inclusivity. Women, especially, who don't seem to have an equal access to the top levels of the profession, and being advocates for that sort of inclusivity, I think is exceptionally, extremely important. But many voices that should be heard often don't have a platform to air their voices. And I think collectively we owe an opportunity, a responsibility to our organizations and society to bring into the room those people who wouldn't ordinarily have access to it. And just being that person who does things differently and does different things is really the summary of what I guess I'm trying to say. And those are some of my observations. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Osagie, for that. Thank you so much. Dr. Peterson, so how can we as legal professionals build credibility and influence within our organizations, within a corporate leadership team?
Well, I think the reality is that it's trust, right? It's a simple concept like trust, and it is a concept, and trust is built through consistency. Your team needs to, so if I look at the ultimate legal team, right, the ultimate team, if I have to measure my team in order to say, we build trust is on a spectrum. You have high performance and you have trust, right? And you want to have a team that is a high performing, high trust team, right? We are high performance and we trust, which means the business trusts our advice. We are consistent. We give good quality work. Trust is multifaceted. It's very funny. We always say that, trust is broken down, not necessarily by a single event, but a lot of small little events, right? And it's important that your department, as well as you as the general counsel, consistently demonstrates trust in your advice, high quality trust and advice. And that boils down to your team as well. The problem is that you sometimes see is that you have high performing lawyers and high performing general counsels, but there's a very low level of trust in them, which makes them very toxic for the business environment. And that diminishes the value that you bring to the organization, because your board, although they believe that you're a high-performing counsel, they believe that they can't trust you, which means each and every legal advice that you give is questioned, or your way of doing things or your interaction is questioned. And it goes to what Dr. Osagie said, is that one must be very careful to become the friend of the board or the friend of the exco member. You have an independent and very strategic role to play, and you need to keep yourself independent. And through that independency, you solidify trust. If you overstep your independency, you destroy the trust. So it is regardless of whether you are an extremely high-performing general counsel. In that instant, you can resign because you're irrelevant. You will not add any value anymore. The board won't trust you. Your board won't engage with you. You won't be in the inner circle. Why? Because your independence, you compromised by yourself. And that's a very, very fine line to toe in our roles, especially looking at the dynamic nature of the general counsel role within organizations, because there's more and more value to be. I mean, in some instances, I see sometimes our legal department knows more about the business than the business themselves, right? And it's difficult, but one must understand that as soon as you overstep the line that is drawn for your role and your independency, you are no longer trusted, you're no longer valid, and it does not matter. The most beautiful legal opinions you can write, the most beautiful poetry you can put down in a letter has no value if you overstep and lose that single element of trust.
And it's so easy to destroy trust. And once it's destroyed, it's hard to get it back. Very well said, Dr. Peterson. So, Mrs. Madueke, building on what Dr. Peterson
Sorry,
has said.
Dr.
Oh, sorry,
Osagie has a question.
has his hand up. Yes, sir. Would like to say something.
I didn't have a question. I was going to endorse what you just said. I mean,
What he
Dennis,
said.
that's
Yes.
a very powerful statement, because I think we've been, I think, in the rush to be recognized as senior business leaders in industry. Sometimes we forget that. Let me just say this: lawyers are never going to be the best friends in industry. We're bringing a message that nobody else has a responsibility to bring sometimes, and sometimes that nobody else has the skills to be able to bring. By virtue of the roles that we do, we're very, very different. So it's important to be a friend in the business, to be an ally, but we're not going to be the best friends at the table because we have a role to play. And the way that the in-house lawyer is respected at the business table, there's a reason why we have that sort of respect, and it's because of the voice that we have. So I have to say, I really endorse what you just said, Dennis. Thank you very much for that.
Thank you.
Thank you. So, Mrs. Madueke, so we've taken all these tips on board. We've built that trust, we've built that credibility, we've built that respect. As Dennis and Dr. Osagie have said. So, what are those things that we need to be mindful of so that we don't erode that, so that we don't destroy what we have taken time to build over time? What pitfalls should we be avoiding in our roles?
I keep forgetting that I am muted. Okay, so I'm very happy with what Dr. Peterson said. It's very important. A lot of in-house counsel don't understand the fine balance between being independent and also building trust. So it's, what he said is very fundamental, and I think everybody here should take that away as something that they should look into. So what are the common pitfalls? I would go on to say, building up on what Dr. Peterson has said, is the strength of character. For you to be, to stand out, you must have the strength of character to be able to speak to your independence, knowing full well that it may bring a negative reaction. Also, it may bring a positive reaction. I could remember a friend of mine telling me that she was a company secretary in a bank, and she was at a board meeting, and they were going to take a decision on the MD, and she told them at that meeting that this she will not allow. You have no right to do this. It's not given to you what you want to do. Now, that is a strength of character, to see, to know, to stand and be independent. Dr. Osagie is also right. You are not, let's understand this. You are not the best friend of the board, neither are you the best friend of management. I recall in my own, I had an issue in my own, with my former life, and I had to talk to one of the directors, and he said to me that, and I never forgot that the board would not trust me if I am too pally with the MD. This is from a director. And I thought, how am I going to manage that? So these are some of the pitfalls. If you lack, you must know when to draw the line. You must understand, you must have the strength of character to say, no, this is not acceptable. I can give you all the advice, but if you do this, it's not acceptable. So that is a common pitfall that we have, that lack of character, that lack of strength is a common pitfall. Everybody wants to get ahead. You want to become general counsel. You want to become executive director. And I'm glad Dr. Osagie said something, the independence, what we give. How can you review a decision that you're part of? A lot of people don't understand that about being an executive director when you're general counsel. So that's the first one. The other one is the balancing act between being advisory and being a professional. It's a very, you see, first and foremost, you must understand the business. We've all talked about how you must understand the business, the risks, and all of that. But how do you now balance, Dr. Peterson said it, because he said something about trust. You can be the best legal advisor, you can be the best in everything, but if they don't trust your judgment, trust your call, I'll not mean to your call on issues, right? You will have a problem. How do you now balance being advisory and being professional? How? So this is the fight. This is the thin lines that we have to walk every time. But whatever you're doing, first and foremost, understand the risk of the business, understand the direction, the strategic direction of the business. Let your advice speak to those. Yes, we are advisors to the board, we are advisors to management. Yes, the business makes the final call on whatever advice we give. Yes, when they make the final call, we have to also provide the solutions to every call that is made. If it's going to be negative, you provide the solution. If it's going to be positive, you provide the solution. Right? Yes, but how do you balance it? Because if you go too far, you will not progress. You will not receive the kind of support that you want. Abidemi said it. If you give, you have to. Sorry, even if you're giving advice, you just don't give advice. You also give solutions as well. So being a professional, we are lawyers. You want to tell people, okay, if you stay on being a professional without looking at the risk of your environment, then that is also a pitfall. Then the other thing is, we talk about relationships. We talk about unity. For me personally, there's a pitfall in standing alone. Nana said it. You must read. You must engage. You must have relationships, right? You must always continuously update yourself with information. Always. The day you stop is the day that you start to lose relevance. So it's very important. Read widely. Know what is going on in other clients. It doesn't matter if it doesn't apply to you. Be aware. Be aware all the time. So these are the common pitfalls, that you should try to, for me, that's what I say, that you should try to avoid. If you lack character, if you don't know how to balance, and if you insist on going on your own. For me. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Madueke. So, Ms. Ayeni, you've spoken a bit, right? Both Mr. Ademola and Mrs. Madueke, you've spoken about not being clogs in the wheel. So there's an issue. Your job as general counsel or in-house counsel or company secretary is to find a solution. So you've pointed out the dangers in this decision, or rather than just saying no, what are the ways we can work around this problem? So how do we, in our roles, balance this role of risk management and also being solution providers to enable the business to run, enable innovation and business agility? How do we find this balance so that we're not seen as stumbling blocks to the organization in achieving its objectives?
So thank you for the question. So I feel like it's a fine line. We have to balance it. Risk management and innovation, I feel like they are not opposites. They require alignment. So there are some things that we can think about. We can adopt lean legal processes. We can streamline approvals. We can automate low-risk contracts. We can always, I know somebody was saying something about how do we review a decision that we were part of. So for me, for example, I work in lockstep with our LRCC. So the LRCC is legal, risk, compliance, and controls. So if you're bringing an innovation, let's say a business partner is bringing a new product for us to approve. My questions are, for me, I would provide the legal risk. I'll tell you that these are some of the things that we have to think about. There's the task risk, the contract risk, several types of legal risk we have to think about. But tell me, have you spoken with our risk partner, the operational risk? What is the risk in this business that you're trying to propose? Compliance, have you spoken to them? Have you drafted controls? Your what, why, when, if, how? What are some of the evidence you're going to show me that you're trying to accommodate this risk? Because for every business, we cannot eliminate risk totally. There will be risks, but how do we reduce it, or how do we come in front of it? How are we proactive to come in front of it? So when you bring all of these answers, then I feel like it's a little bit easier to make a decision to say, okay, we can go ahead with this product. So I feel like early involvement, even though we can sit back, watch them deliberate, and then start to think of questions that they need to answer. We don't necessarily need to like be in their middle trying to talk about the product with them, but we can sit back and be like maintain our advisory process while learning about the product upfront. Other things that we can also do is scenario-based thinking. Rather than defaulting to the precedent, how do we help the business to navigate ambiguity with scenario-based? Okay, if this happens, what are you guys going to do? If this, have you guys thought about this? Have you, and bringing them several, I'm sure we all use our experience, we bring to the table, how do we navigate this when this shows up, when this risk shows up? So those are the kind of ways that we can balance. We need to enable that innovation. Without the innovation, then there is no business. But we need to ask them all of these questions for us to be able to feel confident to say, okay, go ahead and do this. So I feel like being in lockstep with our LRCC partners really helps in giving that go ahead. Thank you.
Thank you. Let me ask you some more around balance, Ms. Ayeni. So we've talked about this is the balance between our legal risk, and business innovation, etc. Let's talk about work-life balance now. How do we, in our roles, our very demanding roles, what are some tips that you can give us to achieve work-life balance so that we don't end up being burnt out from the demands of the job?
Okay, so this is a very fitting question for me. I recently became a mom to my third son 4 months ago. So I have 3 boys. I'm very, very busy. I'm busy at home and I'm busy at work. So some of the things I do, let me just give a very personal example. I was on 4 months maternity leave and I got back to work. And the first thing I needed to know was, what benefits do you guys have available to me now? I feel like we need to be very vocal in things at the office. Ask your managers these questions, because without asking, you're never going to get an answer. So in my office, we used to do 3 days at home and then 2 days in the office. But recently, there was a management decision that everybody should start coming like 5 days in office. So I needed to know, as a new mom of my third son, how am I going to navigate coming to the office 5 days a week? And then they told me, okay, we can, do something for you. You can still continue with the hybrid 3 days a week, and then 2 days at home until the end of summer. And I took that immediately. I'm like, okay, thank you very much. Like, this is really helpful. So being vocal about what are the benefits that you can offer. There are some things that are not written down in the HR guidelines. There are some things that only your manager or your manager's manager will be able to offer you. Another thing I do is digital. So everybody wants to be on their phone. We want to stay connected to work. But sometimes when you get home, except it's very critical, and we don't work in hospitals, right? It's not life-saving. Put down those phones, like turn off the alerts, and then just focus on family time. One other thing is I apply like a risk-based lens to everything. Not all tasks are created equal. What are the most pressing things for me to do right now at work? What are the things that have deadlines? And then when I'm done with that work for the day, I go home. I also told my manager, can I come to work earlier and leave earlier? So now I come to work at 8 and then I leave at 4 because I have 3 children to take care of. And then on the home side, we all have families. I would say outsource. If you need to get a nanny to care for your children, if you need to outsource the food, those are the kind of things that you should put in place. I also took up an interest in exercising now. I didn't know exercising could be so freeing. So some of those things, incorporate them, find hobbies, and then do your best at work. So those are some of the tips that I have on work-life balance.
Thank you. I totally support what you said about exercise. It's even for your mental clarity. You often find that that's the only real alone time, that you get to have as a working mom. So thank you for that. Miss Aston, so Ms. Ayeni has spoken to us about our domestic stakeholders. So I want you to please speak to us, about our corporate stakeholders. Can you give us some tips for managing our stakeholder relationships on the corporate side this time? So our boards, our executives, our regulators, employees, some tips for managing our relationships with our stakeholders on the corporate front.
Yeah, I'm going to touch on something that was covered comprehensively and say that managing stakeholder relationships is about building trust. We've spoken about trust in a lot of detail. In the South African context, there's been multiple high-profile corporate failures, that have been reported, and most of them speak to, broken trust. So I'd say the best practices for managing stakeholder relations. One, start off by knowing your stakeholders. A shareholder and an independent director are not the same, so their needs are not the same. Neither is a key client and a regulator. So I use a stakeholder matrix to identify interest, influence, and expectation of each stakeholder group and tailor the engagement accordingly. So, for instance, regulators need confidence. They need to know that you are complying with the, with the requirements of your license. For instance, if you're a financial services provider, for example. Boards need clarity. Executives need insight from you. They need accurate and reliable legal advice. So the starting point is actually just know what your stakeholders need, right? And then prioritize transparent and timely communication. And that means maintaining very clear and accurate, regular ongoing communications with your stakeholders. Offer, tailored decision, useful information, and that doesn't mean just, dumping any legal update or article that you read to your board. Identify information that is relevant to that particular stakeholder, and keep an open line of communication by information sharing with them. Even if it means that you summarize some things and you just keep them updated on what's going on, you also stay relevant with that particular stakeholder. I'd say another one that helps is to provide, consistent governance training and awareness, especially for company secretaries. Regularly upskill your directors, your executives, and your senior management. But I give law trainings on the roles and responsibilities of directors, their fiduciary duties, the role of the company secretary, which surprisingly you find it's not very well understood by some boards. Offer trainings on regulatory changes, especially there's in the SA context, in the compliance space, there's IT governance, cybersecurity joint standards that come out. And it's important to kind of, keep your stakeholders updated on those changes and provide training. So the bottom line really when it comes to stakeholder management is keep on open lines of communication with your stakeholders and don't only build good relationships, but ensure that you maintain and grow those relationships through open and ongoing communication.
Fantastic. Thank you, Ms. Aston. Dr. Osagie, so I wanted you to speak to us about, career choices, staying flexible, keeping abreast, just reading and being widely informed. And I ask this question of you because I know that you're a neuroscientist and you've somehow managed to combine this with the law, which is like on the opposite side of the spectrum. So do you want to speak to us about how you, should I say pivoted? I don't know if you've totally abandoned that field, but maybe you want to speak to us about how you've been able to merge these two seemingly opposite ends of the spectrum together successfully, and then how this ties into us as lawyers, just being well-rounded.
Well, I wouldn't tend to give advice to a group of lawyers. That's a very dangerous thing to do, first of all. And secondly, I think I'm a bit of a crazy person and nothing I do makes sense. So please ignore anything that I say to you. So yes, I went and read law, but I think everyone on this panel has given very useful insight. I mean, if you took this and sold it, you'd make a lot of money out of the wisdom that has come out of this session, because everyone has talked about the importance of recognizing our roles as lawyers and the uniqueness of that role, and then the traditional role of lawyers started there, and then it then moved into becoming company secretaries. So traditionally it was the finance directors who were company secretaries, and like the typical lawyers we've muscled in there and we've taken that from finance people. So now lawyers are in-house lawyers and the company secretaries, and then in some parts of the world, United States, perhaps in the United Kingdom, we're also managing data protection privacy teams. And so you see how lawyers actually, they have the mindset, the scope to do many things, to juggle many things, and typically things that most people would find very difficult and very challenging. I just say that I think it proves that the training that we have as lawyers when you go through law school, it prepares you to be able to do loads of things. I do a lot of talking to law students here, and I tell them to think of law not in the traditional sense of the law. I mean, I went to law school in Nigeria as well, and when I went there, a long time ago, by the way, all that we were taught was going to read law and going to practice law in a law firm. So you had to do your court attachment, you had to do your what was the other one you did? Placement in the law firm. And those were, that's all the opportunities we had. Yes, and in England it's very different. I mean, lawyers are much broader than that, and I think certainly from looking at colleagues on the screen here, things have moved on a lot. But my point is that the training that we have as lawyers in any part of the world, by the way, it makes it possible for us to be able to stretch our minds to do loads of different things. And that's why the role is a very unique role. If you're sitting in a company advising them, you're advising them on all of the operations. That's huge. It's a big responsibility. But most of us are doing it very successfully, by the way, in spite of the difficulties that we have. We don't have as many resources as finance and other teams have, but we do it very well. And one of the reasons I did what I did was because I wanted to stretch my mind, and I wanted to do something different to the traditional role of an in-house lawyer. And I qualified as a neuroscientist and psychologist, and I bring that in. So every time I'm talking to the business here, and sometimes I'm asked to do a talk, I will generally talk about something that's not strictly legal. So I sponsor the well-being committee here, and I talk a lot about bringing your mind and being able to use your mind and your brain in a way that you get the best out of yourself and get the best out of other people. So, for example, if you went to law school, you'd have been taught advocacy, how to talk to people, how to cross-examine people, how to check whether somebody is telling the truth and things like that. And that really is psychology. So we're doing some of those things, but I'm just saying, everyone can do something that's different, and you tend to enjoy the role a lot better. Burnout is a huge thing for lawyers. Burnout is a big thing. So finding a way to work in a very non-traditional way is one of the things I'm not, the lawyers who work for me, they know I talk about that all the time. Just stretch your mind and go laterally and acquire some skills that are very different to what you do. And you know what? If you feel tired one day and you want to walk out of being an in-house lawyer, you've got some skills to do something else. I call it my back pocket analogy. Always keep some money in your back pocket so that on a rainy day, you can just put your hand in there and find that you can use it, use something that you never thought you had. So that's my position.
Very aspirational words. Thank you, Dr. Osagie. You put that brilliantly. So I'll ask our panelists now for their final thoughts, for our young and aspiring legal and governance professionals. There are a number of people watching now. So just some parting thoughts for them. Mr. Ademola, you're muted.
Okay. Can you hear me? All right. Okay, so for me, I think just listening to all our brilliant panelists, I would say be convinced, beyond reasonable doubt of the value that you bring to the table, and then go ahead and deliver it. That would be my parting shot to you, that don't let anyone push you aside. Don't let anybody call you a cost center. Don't let anybody say, well, yeah, they call it support function. Don't listen to all of those. Be convinced that you bring value to the table. Unlock that value, deliver it, and do it, repeat and beat it every time. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Ademola. Mrs. Madueke.
For me, I have heard a lot today, and I must say, I am very, I thank the panel. We had some great people giving very useful and insightful information and advice. So thank you, everybody. My last word, you are different as a lawyer. You are different as a professional. You are different as a governance practitioner. I'm going to build on what Mr. Ademola said, that you are different. So do not, again, allow anybody to tell you otherwise. And be situationally and self-aware. Do not lose yourself. Be situationally and self-aware. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Madueke. Dr. Peterson.
I would say, chairperson of the board when I started gave this advice to me, and it's something that stuck with me all of my years. He said, be steady, be the steady hand. Let me just get it. Be the steady hand that guides with wisdom, but the bold voice that speaks the truth, and the quiet strength that shapes the future of the governance in the board. That was his advice to me, and it's something that I live with. So I hope that that gives some people also some insight.
Thank you, Dr. Peterson. Just to let our participants know that questions will be taken once we get the final thoughts from all panelists. So please hold on and bear with us. Thank you. Ms. Aston, your final thoughts, please.
I'll frame this as a kind of an advice. I'd say to anyone continuously pursuing a career in internal legal counsel, company secretarial and compliance, choose an organization with a culture that values co-sec legal and compliance, that values this function as an integral part in achieving the strategic objectives of the company. Choose an organization where governance is seen as an enabler, a necessary strategic partner, as opposed to kind of an administrative nuisance that is in the way of generating profits. And I say that because I've seen a lot of really, really great, talented legal professionals getting broken down by finding themselves in kind of a wrong culture and environment.
Thank you, Ms. Aston. Thank you for that. Ms. Ayeni, your closing thoughts, please.
Hi, so I have three quick things I'd like to say. So the first one is, I know most of us have goals, but wherever you are now, there is a reason why you're there. So be the best at what you're doing now, and these skills that you're gathering up along the way is going to help later in future. And then for work, don't be an introvert. Speak up in meetings. I was a very deep introvert, but I had to learn that my voice was needed. And that's when people started listening to what I had to say. So just speak up. And the last thing is networking. Networking is really key. It's going to help you. It's like just network, speak to people, don't be shy. One day you'll see why you had to do that. Everybody's useful. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Ayeni, and thank you to all the panelists. So we'll go into questions now from our participants, please. At this point, I'll introduce Ms. Ademola Olumeyo. Ademola is a director with segment, and then give the vote of thanks thereafter. Ademola.
Thank you, Yewande, and thank you so much, everyone. I can't tell you how many pages I have written, and I thought I had so many years of experience. Thank you so much. So I'm just going to go to the questions now. Can you please post the questions? I don't see, thank you. So there's a question here. It says, I'm a professional accountant by training, and I'm an associate of ICSAN, which is the Institute of Chartered Secretaries and Administrators. And it says, however, I see a lot of barriers breaking into company secretarial roles in Nigeria. I recently secured an LLM admission. Will this enhance my status to compete in an industry saturated by lawyers? I kindly want to know my fate, please. Should I be asking Mrs. Ademola, would you like to take this, or Mrs. Madueke? Which one of you would like to take this one?
Thank you, Dela. I'm happy to. So the truth of the matter is, if you look at the rules, accountants also have the opportunity. They are qualified to be company secretaries, and I think what you need to focus on is building the skills for that. I don't think organizations discriminate because you're an accountant that you cannot be a company secretary. I've seen in fact, when I was growing in my career, most of the company secretaries that were available at that time were financial people as well, and some of them grew up to become CFOs and later maybe executive directors as well. So what I would advise is that you focus on building the right skills and looking for the right opportunities. The truth of the matter is that we always feel that things are stacked against us. Even if you ask a lawyer now, the lawyer can tell you that, oh, because I've not worked in a multinational before, I'm not able to get I'm not be able to get a role like this and things like that. But that's a mindset. I believe if you decide that that's what you want to be, and you know that you're qualified for that position, pursue the opportunity, pursue the right skills, and then network also, and make sure that you will soon find that you have the opportunity to become a company secretary, rather than thinking, oh, everything is stacked against me, because that's a mindset and it will guide your actions if you're not careful. Thank you. That's what I would say.
Also, to just add to what Abidemi has said, a company secretary is a governance practitioner. So there's no limitation as to who can be a governance practitioner. Could be a lawyer, could be an accountant, right? So just need to, like she said, acquire the skills, acquire the knowledge. It is not, it's not going to, there will be no doors closed to you. And like she's also said, build the relationships.
Stella?
Yes, I just
Okay,
realized that I was speaking.
Yes.
Thank you so much. And yes, I absolutely agree. You should always seek those opportunities and don't let yourself be held back by any mindset and networking. I think a lot of the things that have been shared in this room would also help the person who asked that question. I don't see any other question in the room, in the chat, and there is none in the question and answer part as well. If there's any other question, okay, none. But there have been so many comments here of people saying thank you to all of you panelists, and I'm certain that you see them as well. And I'm so grateful to you, to all of you. On behalf of the Kaizen Academy Nigeria Limited, I'd like to say special thank you to all of you. Thank you for the time that you've committed to doing this. Thank you to all of you participants. I see that we've hardly lost anyone who joined this session. Thank you for staying throughout. Your questions and just being here has also helped to enrich the dialogue. I'd also like to thank the team at Kaizen Academy. Thank you for bringing this incredible team of people together with the profiles that you've read. I'm sure you can see it must have been a tough time getting a time that works for all of you. And just so to say to all of you, don't just build relationships. Some of the things that you've heard today, don't just take them, use them. Don't just build relationships, use them. Have a back pocket strategy. Be convinced of the value you bring to the room. Know what the interests of your stakeholders are. So thank you so much. My gratitude again also to Temi, who is at the Secretariat, Temi Adidoja. Thank you, Deborah Oladoyi. Thank you so much for ensuring this smooth execution. Your dedication, your hard work has made this possible. And for everyone who's attending, for any of your governance needs, please feel free to contact us at Kaizen, whether it's board evaluation, whether it's corporate strategy, consulting, or training. Feel free to follow us on Instagram at Kaizen Academy Nigeria and any other social media platforms. And don't forget, we have other trainings coming up. Please feel free to register for those on the 23rd, and between the 23rd and the 31st of July, there will be a company secretarial school. I know that one of our panelists did say that she does training and how important it is to have those trainings So feel free to register. You can check out the details on our website. Our next webinar will hold on the 1st of August this year, and the topic will be Unlocking Efficiency, how AI can transform business operations. I trust that having listened to this, you know that it's going to be another insightful time. So lock it down on your calendars, and we look forward to seeing you then. Thank you, everyone, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
He climbed a 10,000-meter
Thanks,
tower
everyone.
just to
Bye.
go viral, but almost died instead. When he reached the top, he felt invincible, so he pulled out his phone and started live streaming. Views began pouring in, and comments about his bravery flooded the screen. He smiled, soaking in the attention, until the sky rumbled. But then, a deafening crack of thunder echoed behind him. Panicked, he reached for his safety hook to climb down, but it slipped, and he fell from the top. His life flashed before his eyes until he remembered. He was wearing a parachute. He pulled the cord and took a deep breath. But seconds later, the parachute malfunctioned, and he couldn't control where he was going. And now, he was flying straight toward a building with a giant iron door. He braced for impact, but right before he hit,
the door opened and he landed at Kaizen Academy, the best governance firm in Nigeria. With a presence in Lagos, Abuja, Kenya, South Africa, and the UK, Kaizen Academy is your trusted partner in business transformation. Rooted in the Japanese principle of Kaizen continuous improvement, we offer world-class governance advisory, strategy formulation, board appraisals, compliance automation, and more. Our mission, to strengthen people, systems, and organizations with excellence at the core. Recognized globally for our quality, ranked among Nigeria's top consulting firms and awarded Best Public Speaking and Customer Service Training Company in 2024, Kaizen Academy blends deep local insights with global expertise. Whether you're a business leader, board member, or HR professional, we equip you to thrive in today's fast-changing world. Partner with us and grow the Kaizen way.